Good morning, grade 9s. I will be doing a worksheet with you. Question 1, the impact of transactions on the accounting equation. Alright, I'm going to start with the accounting equation. You'll see that assets is equal to owner's equity plus liabilities, which means to buy an asset, you need some of your own money, and then the rest of the money that you do not have, you have to borrow, and that's called a liability. Okay, so you will see for assets, the plus is on the left-hand side and the minus on the right-hand side, whereas on the other side of the accounting equation, it's the opposite. The plus is on the right-hand side or credit side, and the minus on the debit side. Okay, so assets plus is on the left-hand side or debit side, and the minus is on the right-hand side or credit side. So I'll explain how this works while doing these transactions below. Okay, I'm going to split it in 2 videos so that the videos are not too long. Right, so let's start with number 1. Bought 700 Rand of packing materials cash. Okay, so firstly, I have to identify, number 1, what are the 2 accounts affected by this transaction. So there's normally 2 accounts affected. Okay, so I bought packing material. Okay, so normally rule of thumb for me is whatever I purchase, whatever I buy, that specific item will get debited and the other account will then be credited. Okay, but there are certain rules, so therefore I'm going to go through that with you now. Okay, so I bought packing material cash. Now the 2 accounts is there for the cash account is bank, and the other account is packing material. So I'm going to write the packing material. Now I have to classify these 2 accounts, that account and that account, under assets, owner's equity or liabilities, depending on what it is. Okay, bank, normally in your case, where we're doing grade 9 work, bank will be an asset. Okay, so now I have to ask myself, what happens to that bank asset, bank which is an asset, what happens to the bank account? Okay, I'm going to ring fence each one. I'm just going to work with bank now, and then I'm going to work with packing material. Okay, so bank will get less because I'm paying money out. So bank is an asset, so there's assets. If it gets less, on which side does it get less? Remember, left-hand side is debit side and right-hand side is credit side, always, for any of these accounts. Okay, so bank gets less on the credit side, so you will see at the bottom there's the debit side and the credit side of assets as well. Okay, which means 700 Rand, that's actually a minus 700 Rand because there's a minus at the top. So it gets credited, it gets less, and on which side of assets is it? This is the debit side, that is the credit side. So it's obviously on the credit side, the right hand side, so therefore I have to write bank there as well. Okay, now for every debit there is a credit, for every credit there is a debit. So if I know bank is credited, something else must be debited. And I told you, just an easy rule of thumb, whatever we are purchasing, whatever we are paying for, that specific item will get debited. Therefore, packing material will get debited. Packing material will get debited. Now, why is it on the debit side? Okay, packing material is the owner's equity account, so owner's equity over here. And if I put it on the debit side, like there, it means that if I put it on the debit side here, that the owner's equity gets less. Now let's just think logically about it. When I'm purchasing packing material, which is an expense, which is owner's equity, what will happen to the money of the business in general, the owner's equity, or the net worth? Will I have less money available in my piggy bank or in my pot of money, if you would call it that? And obviously, because I'm paying for something, the pot of money or my net worth, what I've got left, gets less, and therefore owner's equity it gets less on the debit side or left hand side. Okay, it gets on the left hand side it gets less. Okay, so that's the first transaction. And now how do you test yourself? Okay, there's an equal sign in the middle there. Minus 700 is equal to minus 700. Is that correct? Yes, that is the same. You must have a debit and a credit under the accounts where you actually name or mention the specific account. There's a debit and a credit. And on the asset side, there's a credit, but on the owner's equity side, there is a debit. Okay, I'm going to do one more transaction to end off this specific video. Bought stationery on credit for 2,000 Rand. So remember from number one, what I told you, if you buy anything, that specific item will be debited. Regardless, it crosses the rules of owner's equity and assets automatically. Okay, so I'm buying stationery, so I'm just going to debit stationery. Okay, stationery is an expense, it's not an asset. So I'm debiting stationery because it is decreasing my value of my business or the money of the business. Okay, so I debit stationery. Stationery is an owner's equity account. So over here, that's the owner's equity, 2 columns. And I'm going to put the 2,000 Rand on the debit side because it's a minus. It decreases the value of my business. I bought it on credit. I didn't pay cash like in number one. So if I buy it on credit, the account that I use is called creditors control. Now, creditors control is a liability account. Okay, it's on the credit side here because on the credit side I've got more liabilities. Okay, and is that the case? Do I have more liabilities if I did not pay for something? For sure, I've got more people or more businesses that I have to pay because I haven't paid yet. Okay, so my liabilities increase. So let's just test ourselves. There's a minus here and there's a plus here of 2,000 Rand. If we add the two together, we get a 0. There's an equal sign in the middle. There's nothing on this side. Is 0 equal to 0, which is minus 2,000 and a plus 2,000. Okay, that's correct. Is there a debit and a credit? Yes, there is. And is there, with the values, is there a debit and a credit? Okay, there's a debit on the owner's equity and there's a credit on the liabilities. Okay, so you know that you've done everything correctly. So that's 1 mark, that's 1 mark, that's 1 mark, 1 mark. The same here, same there, same there, and same there. So that is 8 marks. Okay, I'll do 3 to 9 in our next video. Thank you.